Boys.
Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Well, good evening to us.
It's 6 o'clock. It's dinner time here on the West Coast.
All right, fine. So good, well, whatever. Good, happy dinner. I don't know.
Yeah, we haven't been on booze. We have not been on Booze Dancing TV live for a while.
No, it's been a long time. It's been quite a bit.
Yeah. So we have how we doing first? We doing okay?
We're doing all right.
Good.
We're doing
long day at work.
Yes.
Long day at home.
Yes.
Working.
The commute, it's hard.
The commute is really difficult.
Here's the question.
But it's easier in pajamas.
Well, I get dressed. I try to be professional.
Look at you, Mr. Fancy Pants. Mr.
I
Fancy
put
Pajamas.
I put on
He's wearing
pants.
pants.
I put on pants. I'm wearing pants. So we got something a little different tonight, boys.
We do.
Yes, we do.
Normally we're whiskey guys, but tonight we've got some interesting spirits from a couple different places. One near you in your backyard, right?
Yep. Lansdale, Pennsylvania,
Correct.
Boardroom Spirits, correct?
Correct.
And we've got Tim Mokes, the master distiller, coming in, and one of the principals, correct?
Yes, Marat.
Possibly.
Yep.
But hey, before we go into a whole lot of detail, shall we roll the credits?
Oh, we should.
Roll the titles?
We're at a sync
titles.
here. Yeah, roll the title swing. Let them get them go. Go.
Welcome to the merch table. Cheers. Waiting. Welcome to the merch table. Cheers. Salud. Oh, cheers.
Oh, cheers.
Salud. Sir,
Cheers.
Cheers. Sludge. A caipirinha.
Like Martinelli, as you said, with a kick.
We do a little swirl.
Or zat. Appetizer? Appetizer. That makes me sad, but you know what makes me happy? Whiskey.
Cacao.
It's everything I thought it would be and less smelling.
Never gets old, Mike.
Never
gets old.
Never does.
Anyway, we were saying.
We were saying. Cacao, which I think is a small city in Serbia. We're not sure. So we got two companies coming in tonight. Boardroom Spirits from outside of Philly, near Philly,
Yep.
right?
Lansdale, Pennsylvania.
And Yebiga, I believe the name of the company is Yebiga.
This is the boardroom stuff.
Spirits. Yep. And Bill Gould, the principal of Yebiga, is coming. He lives out here in California, and he is bringing in and making a Serbian plum brandy, what we're going to talk about, and the whole lineup from which is kind of long from Boardroom.
And he's even got a babushka.
We got a babushka. We'll let Bill talk about that because that woman actually has a name and she has a history, and we're gonna on the cover. So yeah. So are we ready to bring the guys in?
Yeah, let's do the quick intro and then we'll bring them all in.
I gotta get a glass.
Are you ready?
Yeah, bring them in.
Ready.
Oh.
Hey, that's a lot of faces. Jeez.
He's got a full house.
Oh my god.
I'm loving the intro music, guys.
My,
That was good.
It's a good vibe for the evening.
Thank you,
my
Apple.
screen is not big enough for all this.
Common domain, right?
How's everyone doing?
We're good. Thanks for
Hey,
all
Marat.
y'all dropping in.
Good seeing everybody.
Me too.
Long time no see.
Well, we have got a full crew here to talk about really different kinds of spirits that we don't really talk about much normally on Booze Dancing. We tend to look at beer and we look at a lot of whiskey, but here we're getting it.
We drink it. We
look and then we drink. But now we got some interesting things that aren't really, I don't know, well known in the public sector. I think as much than your whiskeys and your all bourbons and things that rums that we're kind of gotten into too. So where do we want to start, guys? Tim, Marat, why don't you talk about Boardroom for a minute? How what you guys do there and what your focus is?
Yeah, of course.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead, Marat.
Sure. So, we've been distilling for about 5 years now. Tim is our, fantastic distiller who runs the show. I just take all the credit for all the hard work he does, but he does a really great job of making sure everyone is performing the highest quality work to meet our standards. But as you guys know, the distillery kind of first started out with some Hungarian roots, which ties very closely, I think, to the brandy. Thank you very much for sending the samples, which we'll definitely love to get into a little bit later. But my wife's originally Hungarian, so the whole idea of us starting the distillery really came about from essentially Hungarian palinka. Basically a fruit-based distillate, very similar to the Plum brandy that we have here. And that was really the epicenter of us starting a distillery, because in our opinion, and Bill, we'd love to get your take on this. We feel, and Tim can get into more of the technical aspects of it, that brandy, especially unaged Eau de Vies, is probably one of the most difficult spirits to make, because there's no hiding behind the mistakes or the impurities of fruit. It's very difficult in fermentation. The slightest mistake is the difference between an aromatic, flavorful brandy and kerosene, right? So you have to be very careful about that. We started off in brandy. We do a little bit of everything, but brandy is one of those things that we're very passionate about. It's a niche player in the market, but I do think that the people that do enjoy it are really passionate about what the category is, and they appreciate really the agricultural aspect of the raw ingredient and the seasonal changes, much like viticulture with wine.
Do you guys find that there's a real, because of the culture we're in, a need for more vegetarian type products, organic?
Organic, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say that vegetarian is a big push for us, but there's a big market for the organic spirits and whatnot. When we can, we do it. We're working on certification for a few products, but that's not something that we're super focused on right now.
Do you guys source your raw materials mostly from the Pennsylvania area?
We try to work within the area as much as possible. The tough part with seasonal agricultural product, like this past year, we were looking to do a pear brandy distillate, and unfortunately, sourcing locally in the Pennsylvania, New York area, it was just a bad season for pears. So you kind of roll with the punches at times.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be difficult. Whereas, is it much different than corn yields or getting wheat or barley? You have those issues too. I'm
do.
Certain.
Grain. I will say grains are a little more durable. There's some local mills that we can work with that we can get a lot of locally grown products and stuff like unmalted grains, corn, wheat, things like that. They don't suffer quite as bad as fruits do. But
yep, Bill. Talk about Yebiga. Tell us the focus of Yebiga and where you guys are.
Well, I didn't come from a technical side. I'm a musician, and I was touring. And my band, Faith No More, is the band I play in. And we kind of had a real big peak around late 80s with a record called The Real Thing. And that was around the same time we were touring Europe a lot. And it's also the same time that the wall fell. So, we were in Berlin the night the wall fell. We did a gig that night. Wow. So we were kind of touring a lot in this period of time when the world was kind of changing out there. And we got into Budapest about, I don't know, not much later than that. We got into Ljubljana when the first Yugoslavian war was happening. And the people from both the Croatian side and the Serbian side were coming to the gig. And it was really a volatile time. But it was also kind of like this adventure where, we hooked up with people and we people brought this stuff called Rakija to the gig because it was kind of a gift they could bring. Money was really tight, but it was a family-made thing. And I kind of connected like that. I became fascinated with the area and just kept coming back. And I noticed like when I come back to the States after I'd been in the Balkans for a couple of weeks or a month that I wanted Rakija. I got attached to especially to the flavor of like some of these family-made ones where they don't sell it. They just keep it in the house, so they save it for weddings or something special. And It's very distinctive taste that you just can't find, and you can't really find it in the store. And, I'd have people come out from there and bring it, in their suitcase, and it would be gone in a night, or the bottle would break, right? Which is like tragedy. And
Right.
I have some friends where I live in San Francisco. There's a bar, we're talking about craft beer. It's called Tornado, and it's a craft beer bar in SF. And I lived behind there for about 20 years. It's kind of like my living room. And so a lot of guys who work in the beer business and also know a lot about tequila and spirits, and they go over to my friend Terrell's house, who works at Sierra Nevada, and they drink tequila. And I kind of was, sit there and drink with them and listen to them, because they know everything about everything. And I would just bring up like Rakija, and they wouldn't know anything about it at all. And I was like, this is really kind of strange, because it's something about 60 million people drink. It's like iconic. And I couldn't find here what I was connecting with out there. So I just kind of like had a crazy idea, decided to start bringing it out here. And that's kind of what I'm doing. I hooked up with a family they're really well respected in Serbia. And they've been doing it on this farm for like 4 generations at least. The grandmother was born there, and she grew up picking plums on this farm. So this Rakija is very rooted to a tradition, and kind of trying to just introduce something out here that kind of I wasn't finding anywhere.
So isn't it funny how there are these cultural, maybe it's not the right word, spirits that we find in wines, beers in other countries that you never would see here. Not never, but it would be really tough to find in this country. Granted, the world is smaller, and there are specialty shops here that you can find things. I was actually at a grocery store over the weekend, and they had lots of Armenian spirits and Romanian wines. And whoa, this is strange. But the world is smaller, and I'm in Los Angeles, so it's a world on its own. But bringing all those things from other countries to one place, to places that have never seen them, is really interesting. And you guys are both doing that.
I would say.
Yeah.
So for both of you guys, these cultural spirits, the Hungarian spirits, the Serbian, how are they drank in those countries? Just straight generally? Or is it over ice, or is it mixed with something else? Are there any norms?
I mean, if I'll start off, so I'm actually originally Armenian, so it's funny that you're out on the West Coast.
Oh, dude, this is little Armenia here.
Yeah, when I lived in California for a short stint, and as soon as I moved out there to Redondo Beach, my mom's like, "Oh, you got to visit your relatives here. They're all in Glendale, and obviously they've got
Glendale, yeah,
plenty of brandy." But growing up in the in the old country, before coming here, usually you drink the spirits, whether it's vodka or brandy, in kind of a social setting with dinner and toasting to someone's health and the next person's health and to the other person's health. It's basically just all part of the culture until you're a few bottles deep. But it's all kind of a celebration in the sense that it brings people together, it brings family together, your close friends, and you're able to enjoy a fantastic product with fantastic food with fantastic people. So it kind of shares that part of the table with the culture.
Bill, the same there in Serbia?
Absolutely. I mean, if you stay at somebody's house and they get it out for you, I mean, it's an honor, really, because they're saving it for the daughter's wedding or something. And it's like it's the fruit from the orchard in the back. So it's like very distinctive. It has its own vibe and its own personality with that family, and the kind of the water that they've worked with and how they've dialed it in. And we're talking, you dial something in for a couple hundred years, you really get to know those ingredients, and it becomes very special to that. They're all a little different. They all kind of have their own personality, but it's very personal. That's the way I see it.
Have you guys both all seen because of our new last 10 years or so, the cocktail culture has grown so large in this country, all over the world, but this country especially, that a trend towards using unique spirits in cocktails.
Right.
Yeah, there is. I think cocktail culture, which is relatively new when you compare it to beer and wine culture, it's been around for the longest time. We're seeing that really starting to take a shape of its own, with more people interested in premium spirits, unique spirits, spirits that have a history and culture with it. but also, create fantastic drinks. And really, I think the next level, which, products like Brandy bring to the table so well, is that now, the next evolution of spirits and cocktails is now spirits and cocktail and food pairings, which, is something that's relatively new, only, centuries old versus a couple hundred years old versus other products that have been around for a long time.
Tim, do you guys actually think when you're creating a new spirit or developing one about the cocktail aspect of what this can be?
Not always. We often focus on the raw ingredient, what we're trying to portray, what we're trying to make the spirit be. And then, we have our bar staff. We have a really good mixologist who can take the flavors that we create and then carry that into the cocktail culture. So I can't say we don't. Very few times do we make a spirit that's made to be a cocktail, with the exception of like some Amaros and things like that. Most of the stuff that we make, we just want to, show what the raw ingredient can do.
And let the cocktail wizard figure out what to do with it.
Exactly.
Yep. Well, we need to try some of this stuff while we're yapping here.
Yep.
So
where should we start?
Everybody got glasses and spirits in front. Oh, look at.
Where should we begin? Anybody?
I got the unaged.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that.
Mine came with a lid.
That's so nice.
So who's got a nice like Serbian or Hungarian toast?
Oh, there you go. That's a good question.
I think it's I'm going to butcher this. It's Yebiga in Hungarian.
Wow.
Živeli.
There you go. Cheers in English. Drink.
Cheers.
Cheers, boys.
Yeah, there you go.
How about that? Can we go with cheers?
Now, I actually have a bottle of your Beet Spirit. When I was in Philadelphia last year visiting
Yeah, you picked it up at the Reading Terminal.
Yep, at the Reading Terminal. And so let me prop that up. Big B. And it is so unique. Boy, it just, it's Beet.
Oh, yeah. That's a polarizing spirit right there. You love it or you hate it.
Much like Beet.
I think so. My wife and I just had this conversation before we came on, and she is not a beet lover, and I love beets. And maybe that's a European thing. I don't know.
So beets have a pretty high sugar content, right? How do they ferment?
With a lot of effort.
Really? Huh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. They're really hard in texture. So to grind them down, get them into a malleable pulp that we can then add enzymes to break down those pectins and sugars and everything. It's a bit of effort, but I mean, it pays off.
Wow, cool.
Well, until your fermentation, your chiller decides to stop working in the middle of the night, and you come back to a big bloody beet mess covering the entire floor with ours.
We've had some
the worst twice.
Yeah, there's Jack the Ripper looking scenes going on.
Oh my god! So when does the red go away in the process?
Distillation.
Distillation.
So, yeah, no color carries over in the distillation process. It's all clear spirit that comes out the other end of the still.
So on you guys have a pretty broad line of product. How much of it's barrel aged, if any, aside from the whiskeys?
Outside of the whiskeys, not very much. I mean, our rye, our bourbons, whiskeys.
We have the three brandies.
We've had a couple. Yeah, we've done a handful of brandies. We have a pear brandy in barrels that's fantastic right now.
Wow.
But unfortunately, we only have one barrel of it, but it's amazing.
And we keep drinking it.
Yeah, you should stop that.
I was going to ask you the same, Bill. So the Yebiga is not barrel aged.
The PRVA that you have is barrel aged. It's 18 months. 18 months. Yeah, not a lot.
Oh, 18 months. Okay.
Yeah. I would like longer. The Serbian oak barrels. They're from the actual farm area.
Are they first use barrels? Or
first use barrels, exactly.
Nice.
Oh, really?
That's right.
It's a very mellow flavor.
Very mellow. I mean, for 18 months, they're actually fairly well, matured. A lot of Rockies can get up to 18 years, and
wow.
It's just the thing is when you're doing something that's so unknown and off the wall like this, I can't imagine starting something more than 3 years aged, and have to like supply it.
Are the barrels charred or is it?
No, not charred. Just
That's the difference then. Yeah,
that's right.
Because our whiskeys that are 18 months old in char barrels are tannin bombs.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Totally.
Bill, I always say this, having tasted many a Eau de Vies, this is just. And Tim and I were reviewing this. We don't drink, we review. This is a little bit,
You're like us. This is why we get along, Marat.
The fine balance that you guys have been able to accomplish with this plum brandy, and I'm personally not a plum brandy fan, but I really appreciate the spirit because it's it's light bodied, it's delicate, it's aromatic. You're not picking up a lot of the heavy methanol from the heads. You're not getting that wet dog,
very well made.
Cardboard from the tails. So it's a really clean distillate because it stays up here in the palate. It doesn't rip you up going down like a lot of other Rockies do. And it's I think Tim described it great. It has this kind of almost like lees-like flavor that gives it a nice characteristic.
Right,
like you would get from like the grape skins and stuff like that in a Lees wine. Yeah,
and that's I like that. I like the almost skin. That's the evocativeness too. That's where it takes your imagination and you actually start thinking of the fruit.
Yeah, right.
So I have a friend out here who has a distillery, and one of his goals, which he gave up on, was he wanted to make his own plum brandy. But comparing to what he grew up with, which was, basic Slovets, right?
Yeah, right.
And which is, turpentine, to say the least. But he was always frustrated by the fact that it was never plum-y enough. You didn't get a plum flavor out of it, right? And he worked like 2 years trying to kind of reinvent the wheel and finally gave up because he could never get. He said that he's kind of got a chemical background that that plums have a very unique structure, and it's very difficult to keep their flavor together. So a lot of things that you get that are plum flavored, like jams and jellies and things, they're not really a lot of plum. It's like a lot of fake plum stuff in there. Whereas like Slovets and things are real, but it just gets lost in the distillation process. So how do you keep it there so that you get a plum note and a plum flavor in the end?
Well, in our side of things, a lot of it has to do with these plums in Serbia just distill really well. They're called Čečanska Rodna, Čečanska Lepotica, and they're not so great for eating, but when you distill them, they kind of keep it together. That's the biggest thing I would say.
Honestly, that's how a lot of wine grapes are. They're wine grapes aren't good for eating.
No,
they're great for making wine.
Yeah, right. Table grapes are a totally different thing.
Completely.
Yeah.
One question: when you do the apple, what variety of apples are you using? I mean, you're not using a Red Delicious or a Granny Smith or something.
We have actually.
Yeah.
Oh, have you?
I got it right here.
I mean, are apples like?
This is, I believe, this one was Gala and Red Delicious.
Oh, really?
Red Delicious. Golden Delicious.
So it's sort of not
sugar.
the same thing as with like grapes or plums. You could use just a.
I mean, there are apples that aren't that great, like crab apples and stuff like that. But I mean, if you get an aromatic apple, you can make an aromatic brandy.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure how it worked with that.
A little different than like cider making, where they'll use different, apple varietals to make ciders. For brandy production, it's sugar, aroma. And
you're looking for different notes than you would with a cider, because your fermentation is not your finished product. Your distillate is. So certain, you're looking at volatile aromas and stuff that you want to retain into your distillate and all that. Whereas with a cider, you're really just getting the raw ingredient.
Right.
Okay.
So what are Tim? What is the stuff coming off the still at generally across the board for you guys on your A, B's, and C's and on the ABV?
Yeah, the Eau de Vies are probably coming off around between like 75 and 82%.
Yep.
Roughly. we don't want to run them too high, or we'll if we get the ABV too high, we lose a lot of the aromatics and a little bit of body, and it'll become more of a neutral product. So, but too low, it gets too fusily. You don't get the better alcohols. So, we try and ride a good line there.
Bill, what about you guys?
Are they distilled once or twice?
We had a. Go ahead.
Oh. Honestly, all of these have been run once.
Okay.
We do double distill a lot of stuff. We'll strip and then rerun, but most of our Eau de Vies are a single pass.
Okay, so you go.
Is that kind of normal for you to Eau de Vies? Are they normally run singles across the world?
It depends on who you ask.
You're twice.
I can't. I can only speak to what I do.
We've seen, like in Hungary, they have the Kisushti method, which is basically double pot distillation. We can do both with our hybrid still. We've just, again, this is how you're curating your product. Every distillery is different. Every chef is different. Everyone does things differently. We just found that by running it through the single pass distillation, having the right column settings, the right cooling, the gentle heating, we're able to extract the right amount of body coupled with aroma and flavor. So, and again, that's just our environment. It could be completely different for anyone else. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. At the end of the day, as long as people are buying it, you're doing it right.
Yeah. What's the end product? That's what it comes down to.
Right.
Bill, you said you guys are double distilling.
Double distilling, yeah. And you asked me something else too, and I had an answer for you, but I guess it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, we'll come back.
Sorry if I cut you off.
No. Yeah, I'll come back to it.
We have a friend who makes whiskey in France, single malt whiskey in France. You guys may know Alison Park. Her brand is called Bren, and she was going, Bren. And she was going to Cognac and found, this sounds a lot like you, Bill. She found a small farm that was also making, the guys make fun of me and my name drops. She was making.
You missed one. You had an opportunity. You didn't say it. You're distiller in LA.
Oh, yeah. Lost Spirits. Brian Davis.
All right. Yep.
So she found a small farm that was making cognac, and she and they were also making whiskey and putting it in cognac barrels and aging it. And they weren't selling it. They were just kind of, not even marketing. It was for family use, and they were putting it in the local bakery and whatever, I guess, little stores in Cognac, but it wasn't really being sold. It sounds like, Bill, that's kind of what you have there, is like a small little farm that was doing this for a long time and decided, and if you don't come along, they're probably doing the same thing as they've always done.
They have a high-end rakia that they do, but in a place like Serbia, that's a really small market, and they are kind of very purist about how they do things. The father's kind of an institution there for doing rakia, but the difference is that they still make it on a small farm, and a Serbian market for something like this is not that big. And if I want to do something in the United States, all of a sudden I'm like, hey man, we need like some pallets of this stuff. And they're just like, what?
We can't do balance.
I mean, this is a farm, So it is a bit of a balancing act on like where we get to keep this the way they do things, because that's what it's all about, right? But at the same time, I mean, even California, it can consume as much, rakia as Serbia could consume with a popular product, very, very possibly. And it's really you're bringing this crazy idea of the size and scale of the United States to this place that never really had to think about that before. So it's a real puzzle, and I don't think that if I would have thought about it that way from the beginning, I would have done it. I just kind of thought, how cool would it be to bring this rakia to the States and introduce it, and then the practicalities kind of came later. But I think in the long run that's okay. It's just it's a lot of different ways of thinking about it.
Well, and you have the growing pains trying to get larger with smaller scale and an older company like you've got, and it is a challenge to how do we scale up when this place isn't used to scaling up, right? It's
Yeah,
difficult.
because here it's about like, what's your presence? Where are you? Oh, you're
Yes.
nothing, right?
Right.
It's like, well, you kind of have to be taken seriously, but at the same time, you can't kill it by just throwing stuff out there, right? So it's a real balancing act of like keeping everybody happy sometimes.
Is that distillery? Is it called a distillery? Do they
It
call
is.
it?
It's a farm. I mean, it doesn't even have an address. And I mean, to give you an example of what it's like last year, I was waiting for this shipment to come and it snowed. And so everybody had to walk all of the cases down from the farm to the road so that the truck could get it. And that took like an extra 3 or 4 days,
Wow.
So this is the kind of, it's really rustic. I mean, when I say
It's rustic. Yeah.
It's a
really
farm.
rustic. Yeah, but it also, it's a part of like it's happening in a lot of parts of the world. A lot of the country areas, the rural areas are dying off, and so there's a lot of old farms that are kind of going to seed, and it's interesting because they have these old plum trees that are really old, and it's kind of interesting where you get this going and you get something going, and again it gives people some kind of excited about what they do again, and gives them a little bit of spark because everybody leaves for the cities and wants to work at doing websites and stuff now.
Right. So, are there rules in Serbia? Is Rakija?
Not a lot of rules.
You can call anything Rakija?
You have to register it. You can. I mean, there's something like 10,000 unofficial producers there.
Oh my God!
Wow.
That's who will admit that they do it. I think it's
It's like every other house.
So
Are there
is
10,000?
Basically.
Are there
Yeah.
Is
10,000? Go ahead, Yanch.
Is Yebiga actually? Is this particular product available in Serbia?
No, it is not.
Do they sell it
now-
at the farm, or you're pretty much the guy?
No, I'm the guy. I just brought it here. It's just straight
Okay.
export.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just because I'm figuring out how the liquor business works, right? So I
Right.
decided just to start with California, keep just 1 or 2 products that I can manage, and don't piss off too many people, and we'll take it from there. But I am getting a lot of people from Serbia who hear about it because it's pronounced Yebiga. And Yebiga basically means fuck it in Serbian. And you wouldn't know this, but the label is actually an obituary. So when people die,
Really?
if you go to Serbian villages, there's pictures of dead people. They look like punk rock flyers, but they're actually the label of my bottle. So
that's great.
they like
That's awesome.
We'll
my
put it out
wife, I was showing her the bottle the first time. She's like, "Wait, what does that say?" I'm like, "What do you mean?"
So she knew. I love it.
Funny.
I was just thinking of Los Angeles and Marat. You know this. There are so many specialty stores here. They're not even specialty stores. All of the liquor stores in Glendale, as Marat knows, and we've got some here in the South Bay. I'm in Torrance, Marat, and so I would think this would be just amazing in the various multicultural stores that we have here, and elsewhere too, not just California, but Los Angeles for sure. Are you in various stores here, Bill?
We are. So the way when this first got here, I had a friend at Young's Market who said, "I'll help you bring it out here, but you got to sell it, right?" And I go, "Okay, man, it got into it got into Oakland. I got it here." He goes, "Okay, here's an Excel sheet. Here's our account. So go to work." It's like, okay.
Kid.
And so what I figured out though, it was real lucky. We don't have a lot of venues, but the venues we have are strong venues. So there's a place in Santa Monica called Santa Monica Liquors. And Sam is he's tied in. Like there's a lot of Balkan folks that go there. They got the stuff, and it's just still steady in those places. So people know to get this, they can go to certain places, and it's great. There's not a lot of places, but they're very strong, steady places, and it makes me kind of relax and stop having to worry about not being able to do this tomorrow. But it's also word of mouth, and the kind of word gets out. You go to Sam's, and they got the Yebiga. So
Nice.
it's kind of like being a drug dealer in a way.
I was thinking
And
that.
you know where to get it, right?
Totally.
It's really. I get text messages later.
Legal drug dealer.
I need
Bill's
some
got
now.
the
It's
stuff.
like, man, I can't sell it to you directly. You have to go to the store.
Yes.
But people I get desperate text messages all the time.
Well, Bill, I will say this is the pure stuff. It's not cut with any crap. It's very clean. It's it's got good flavors. It really does
delicious.
captures the essence of the fruit, and that's very difficult to do, especially with something being imported. That's you got to be right below those methanol levels, and you guys have done a really good job
Yes,
with that.
the methanol was a real challenge, but they cracked it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Did you face issues with that? Because you guys are familiar, maybe not, but in Europe you can have higher methanol levels in your brandies than what comes into the U.S., and that's what really attributes to a lot of the aroma and flavor. So the fact that you guys are able to do something that's flavorful and clean and aromatic, it's pretty impressive.
It was a real challenge. I mean, actually, this is an interesting thing when you talk about Slivovitz, and it's always been firewire, you knock back. A lot of it's because when you ferment plums naturally, it produces more methanol than is allowed here. So you have to break it down with other stuff and cut it down to bring the levels down. And that's what you get. So to bring something that's a natural spirit, like that was the inspiration is let's bring a natural rakia here. Well, then how are you going to get it through the methanol levels? And that took a challenge, and that's way above my pay grade. But my partner, the distiller, found a way to make a distillate that made it work and kept it natural. That was a real challenge. You're right.
So you're at 43% on the ABV. Have you done higher? Have you tried it at higher ABV levels?
Yes. Okay. So that was the thing I was going to say. So if you're drinking the clear one right now, that's it's 40%, which is 80 proof. But the first one that you had on the bigger bottle, the liter bottle, that was 44%.
Yeah.
And I would say between 40 and 45 is generally the spectrum for the Serbian style rakia. I'm drinking a 45 prototype right now, which I just like, but it's not going to be as aromatic. It's just kind of gives me that happy thing.
So so as the ABV goes up, you lose a lot of the aromatic.
You do, because if you try the floral clear one, it's very aromatic, and I think even 1 or 2 degrees after that, you're going to see it diminish pretty quickly.
Do you see if you add water to these, does it bring out more?
I believe that it does. Actually, like a Scotch, like just a little bit. Yep. Yeah.
We do that a lot when we're proofing our spirits, when we're trying to determine what our final proof is that we're going to release it at. We'll try a range of different ABVs to see where it shows best, or if we want to release like a higher ABV one, we know that it's going to be better over ice or with a little bit of water added to it by the consumer. So when you do drop it, whether the distillery drops the ABV or you drop it yourself at home, it will open up the nose and aroma and all that. So.
Lots of distilleries do in the blending process. They'll experiment with ABVs as low as like 20 or 30% to see what the flavors are down at that level. So it's interesting.
Bill, I was going to ask you, about speaking of the methanol levels, do you distill on the whole fruit, the pits and everything, or do you remove the pits?
No pits. Leave the pits. Yeah.
Yeah, because they would add a lot of methanol. So
you can imagine.
Yeah. What about you guys? Do you guys keep any of the innards in your processes?
We remove as much as we can. With apples, we'll often run the whole thing through. The seeds are negligible.
They're not cyanide.
We haven't added enough yet.
Chemical weapons.
One of these days. But no, I mean, like
different contracts.
Stone fruits and stuff like that, they'll add a lot more, harsh byproducts than what you'll get from the handful of seeds that are in the apples.
So what's the? Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Aaron. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you guys, what was the weirdest experiment you've got? Because you guys are all over the place: carrots, beets, apples. What's the weirdest thing you've tried that hasn't worked?
Well, I'll let you talk to that, Marat. Before I signed on, when Marat was in all his R&D phases. Before the company actually went public, opened up. I know that they've fooled with a whole lot of stuff. So
broccoli rock.
We've always kicked around the celeriac, but we haven't done it yet.
There you go.
Something in the long run. And one thing that we've wanted to always kind of showcase is really, again, to Tim's point earlier, the raw ingredient. Educating folks that a blackberry flavored brandy is not true blackberry brandy. It's, as it states, flavors of blackberry added to brandy.
Right.
spirit.
Right.
For $15, that product actually costs like $100. Right? But also just educating folks that, while cognac is the most popular, category of brandy, it's a part of the brandy family. And there's many other brandies out there, such as, apple brandy, like, Calvados, pear Eau de Vies, things of different nature. And we, being new when we were a few years ago, we wanted to have something that was different, unique, very difficult to execute, to show the broad range of what we could do. And that's where we really got into the vegetable spirits. The beet, the carrot, eventually celeriac, something we want to do, expand into others as well. Get into weird fermentations like asparagus and peppers. We'll get there down the line eventually. It's just kind of more of the fun stuff. Right now we're a little tied up with our core portfolio, which is good. That keeps the business growing. But at the same time, we don't, want to give up on the spirit of innovation, because with that, you learn different techniques, you learn different, more importantly, sensories, aromas, flavors that then we can, put in our memory banks and apply that to different products and really cocktails and other innovations. So,
how many stills do you guys have?
We run 2 stills, little lab stills, but those aren't part of the major process. A small 100-liter, 27-gallon still that was our former gin still that's kind of becoming the experimental still, and then 650-gallon or so, which is actually the largest still in Pennsylvania. That's like a hybrid still that allows us to do pot distillation, column distillation, and also infuse through a vapor basket. So it's a really nimble piece of machinery that allows us to execute our full portfolio in one piece of equipment.
Wow.
And your product line is available all over the country, mostly
I wish.
back east?
Yeah, right. Not yet.
Right now we're Pennsylvania based. We contract manufacture for other folks, expanded into different markets, but we have such a core portfolio that going forward, we're going to have a core product that's going to be released soon in a couple of months. Something maybe that we could revisit through a tasting. That we plan on rolling out, on a regional, national level. That's going to be very focused on, bringing a chef curated angle into gin, as well as vodka. So, and then some. RTDs are so hot right now. That's another huge segment that's taken off, as you guys probably know. Canned cocktails. So it's really, a huge boom for the spirits world. It's going to be the roaring 20s. Once people are allowed out of their houses, things are going to go crazy.
That'd be scary. Yeah, as soon as the lockdown's out, completely over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's been interesting enough with people at home becoming, I speak of my wife who's not far from me, becoming cocktail mavens at home in this whole thing, right?
Absolutely.
Right. And so here in LA, you got cocktail services or stores that deliver, and you can pick up things, and people are doing stuff on Zoom and learning how to make cocktails on Zoom. It's just gone crazy. Have you guys all been doing any kind of Zoom tastings and things?
We've done a handful of them. Yeah. Again, this is a little something Marat can speak more of, but we've been curating kits to groups, private cocktail tastings. We send them a kit, they make it at home.
Cool.
On a Zoom meeting, and they have a little Zoom party. So it's
fun.
Yeah, people enjoy the experience.
Oh, it's really fun. It's been a big deal out here with various whiskey groups out here doing stuff on Zoom and all over the world now. The world's a lot smaller because of Zoom and StreamYard, because we've talked to people all over the world in one night, and it's crazy. Bill, are you guys thinking about other products or just or variations of?
I'm trying to get my head around I don't want to be a burden on a distributor with a lot of SKUs. So I'm trying to keep it just right now, just the Plum sleeve of it's these two, where there's one, the clear and that I don't have to worry so much about if there's a demand, I can fill it, and try to keep the one in the barrel a little, reserved for now until we can figure out our little issue. But
we're in the same situation.
Yeah.
Trying to maintain our barrel stocks. So.
That's right. Exactly. It's just, but in the meantime, I think that there's a million places to go. And I would really like to do eventually, I got my importer's license, and I would like to find some of these really fine families that just make, 5,000 liters on a batch and just really small selections, bring them out here just to have them available. So there's a standard, it's just so that you can say, okay, Rakija isn't this rot gut stuff that, you get in this little market, it's here's a fine Rakija, and it'll stand up to anything. It should be respected, so that would be ideal.
This is for all of you guys. In your individual markets, are you seeing this stuff getting into bars? Are you seeing this on bar shelves? Your products and folks getting kind of creative with cocktails. I know you guys have it on the websites, but what about in bars?
Our bars are pretty much shut.
Go ahead, Bill.
It's been a year they've been shut. I went to Chicago almost a year ago. Well, okay, so my stuff only got into Chicago a year ago to the week, like now. And I went there, and there was about 10 bars that were like stoked on it and ready to add it. And then the lockdown happened literally the day I left Chicago, and that was it. It was like, boom.
Well, things are changing, so we hope things change for the better and things open up. And how about you guys? You guys have been around a little bit longer, so you guys were you already in bars on shelves?
Yeah, we were. And, for us, we don't need to be everywhere. It's just being with the right partners that, want to work with us and really just grow the brand. There's obviously various barriers to entry when you're working on premise, price points of consideration, distributor, all that fun stuff that comes with it. But whenever, you're able to find a mixologist that truly wants to control their menu, you present them with the product and, they figure it out. Because, something is potent, and when I say potent, I don't mean it in a negative way, just in terms of flavor and aroma.
Right.
As a brandy or like the Beet Spirit that you have, I mean, that Beet Spirit, a quarter ounce to a half ounce goes a long, long way in cocktail in terms of flavor. So, while this may be a premium product, you don't really need a lot of it to make a great cocktail.
Right.
You can still use vodka along those lines. So, and I think as mixology evolves in the country, people are going to learn that, okay, so, what I learned here with vodka doesn't really apply necessarily to brandy or other categories.
Mm-hmm.
Tim and Marat, Bill was talking about how he's got this fourth generation distillery in Serbia, probably old school methods, I'm guessing. Maybe, is there a computer?
Traditional.
Is there a computer there, Bill? No computer.
No computer anywhere, no.
So you guys are probably, just the opposite, I'm guessing.
Completely.
Tim actually mashes every one of our mashes with his feet. We don't like to tell people about it.
That's really the beat. Is that the beat? Really?
It's actually vodka, but here we are. Tim, I'll let you talk about our equipment. It is highly automated. That was always one of our biggest, goals to start a distillery. Is we wanted to focus on precision, consistency from batch to batch. And just being able to replicate something, especially when you're working with difficult raw ingredients like fruit that vary from season to season. Tim, you're on production every day. You can speak to more about our equipment, especially how you basically run everything from your smartphone.
Yeah, I almost can. We have full automation. Wow. I can program my distillation recipes in, which is just like the heating and cooling of every element of the still. I can go home and monitor it from my phone if I wanted to.
Crazy.
Make some adjustments, come back. And it's not just the still; it's our mash tun that we use for mashing our grains and everything. Is all automated step mashing. I can just load the still, start the program, and walk away, and it does all its, heat. Steps and cooling, and then I just transfer it over to fermenters, add my yeast, and then my fermenters are all controlled through the control cabinet that's connected to the glycol chiller and the mixers and everything, and I just program everything and make sure it's all working correctly.
It's amazing.
And really the most important thing about it is while everything's automated, it's still the proper sanitation practices, because you don't want
absolutely
bacteria, things of that nature. And while while automation is great for distilling, at the end of the day, your still is not going to tell you when the heads are done and the hearts are coming or the tails are coming. That's still in the distiller's nose. So there's always that human element involved in determining aroma, flavor.
Yeah, we can't leave it all up to the machinery, like Marat said. So when we'll go distill up, fire it up, I got my heating protocol lined up, and as soon as I get flow, then I step in,
Right.
and I make the decision when when am I out of heads, when I'm into hearts, when the heart's over, and I got to switch to tails. So can't leave that part up to the machines.
Tim, were you at somewhere before Boardroom, or was this your first distilling?
I worked at a few breweries, but this is my first distilling venture. Yep.
Okay.
He actually came with the building.
Yeah. He found me sleeping in the shed out back.
That's a good perk. Was that part of the goodwill when you put up the lease?
Question for you, Bill. As you were kind of going through distilling, what was some of the worst heads that you smelled out there? I mean, I'm sure you got some bad
I
stories.
cannot imagine.
We distilled some pretty bad wine before that put me on the couch for about a good hour, so I can only imagine what you.
Well, when you get in a place like Serbia, because I'm a musician and a lot of people know who I am, they're like, here, try this. This is my family. This is the best one in the village,
Of course.
And there's just some horrible shit.
Don't tell them.
I mean, it's like you're drinking. You're like, I'm gonna get a headache just from what I just had.
Oh, yeah.
There. This sucks.
And you wonder why are their taste buds different than mine? How do they think that's good?
Nah, they're afraid. They're too afraid to call their children ugly.
But that is the funny thing with some the homebrew stuff that we've tried, and it seems like every time we've done like a food and wine or spirits festival, it's always a Hungarian 1 to 2 or 3 degrees of separation or something from that region. That's like, oh, you want to try my homebrew? It's like, wait, you just carry it around? Like, yeah, here's my still. It's like, well, that's illegal. Why did you show that to people?
Stop it.
Yeah. But I will say that for the spirits that we've received, this is probably one of the best.
Easily.
Eau de Vies that we've tried.
Yeah.
And again, I don't like Plum Brandy, so that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting for me. I grew up. I'm Jewish, and I grew up with Slivovitz on the table, and at a lot of holidays, and weekly at religious events, and not till much later in life, like in the last 5 years, did I know that there was better quality of products out there. A friend of mine just is a wine guy here in LA, or a wine fan, and he just went up to Central California and to a winery that he loves, and they've got a distillery now, and they're actually producing their own plum brandy. So,
is it in Paso Robles?
Yep, it's Willow Creek.
Oh yeah, okay.
It's Opolo Winery.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
and he brought this back for me. They actually call it plum brandy /
Sweet. I gotta pick me some up next time I'm driving up to SF.
Yeah, Opolo's an amazing winery. So they're actually making some other spirits. I think they actually have an oat whiskey. I think I think it's malted oat. So you got Tim. You guys also have a bourbon, right?
We do.
So talk about the bourbon content.
So we're working with, I would say, 3 different bourbons right now. 2 that we make and 1 that we source. So our northbound bourbon is a bourbon that we source from MGP. We blend, we buy different barrels, we blend them in house, and proof and package, and that's our bourbon on the shelf right now. But we've been working hard on 2 other different bourbons. One is from just number 4 yellow dent corn and 6 row barley. It's a great tasting bourbon. It's about, I would say, our oldest ones are 3 to 4 years in the barrel at this point. And then we're also doing an heirloom version of bourbon, which is Bloody Butcher corn with warthog wheat and some Pilsner malt. And it's got, and we're putting these in a little higher end barrels. And it's kind of our, we're going to hold on to that one for a little longer. But none of our in-house aged, made bourbons are available yet. They're still aging.
Waiting.
Still waiting. Wait until it's right. We've tasted a lot of whiskey from a lot of craft distillers who wanted to get onto the market as fast as they could, and we won't buy them again because if you
we
miss
know
that
all
mark,
about that.
if you miss that mark, you miss the mark. There's too much out there to go back to one that sucked before. So we're gonna wait until it's just right, and and really do it good. So
it's a conversation I have with Ange and Mike a lot, that they're beer guys and I'm not, and walking into a Total Wine or even Benny's, you guys, Bevmo, I don't know what you guys have back in Philly, and there's the walls of beer. It's just
there's so
endless.
much,
and I don't know how.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You got to be good to get
Yep.
get shelf space and to get your product out the door.
And to get someone to
Not
buy
necessarily.
it.
Yes, I mean, yeah.
I was having
Yeah.
this conversation yesterday with a brewery who came into our place to talk about, working together. And, they were just going on about how, in order to make it in a retail market, you got to have like a wild label and a crazy marketing team, because, I mean, that's the only way that you're going to stand out on the shelf, for someone to grab your beer. And I told them, I can't tell you how many cool labels I bought with a shit beer inside it.
I know, right?
And it's like, I don't know what to buy anymore. I'm just going to go back to my standards. I'm going to go back to the stuff that I know is good, because it's just a crapshoot.
There was an article in the Wall Street Journal about a year ago or this past year about how the permutations of beer names has kind of like run its course, and it's all I don't know. I can only imagine dog face beer, dog face dog. It's just kind of like endless, right?
There's
But it's
7,000 brewers, and they all make.
Yeah.
They're all making 15 beers. You're talking,
And they're all buying each other too.
That's 105,000 beers.
That's nuts. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You guys don't do any brewing, right? You don't make beer at all?
We don't brew. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yet.
Yeah.
Oh.
Until we brew our beer that we sell to ourselves.
Have you ever distilled beer?
We have, yeah.
The best part
Actually,
about being
pretty
distilleries,
frequently.
Yeah, we're the recycling service of the industry, as we like to call ourselves. And whenever folks come in for tours, we always like to reiterate that there's literally zero reason to drink bad beer in life or bad wine in life, because bring it to us. We can distill it, because at the end of the day, every beer wants to become a whiskey, every wine wants to become a brandy. Bad spirits can be redistilled into better spirits. And, when wineries or breweries have a bad batch, they'll actually bring it to us. We'll distill it and roll it out sometimes later, or use it as a liqueur. So,
Super.
Going back to that, like, only a handful of breweries can admit that their beer went south or they made a bad beer. And those handful of breweries will bring it over to us. Too many of them just still package it and release it.
Right.
Yeah. I assume that you guys at Boardroom, when the world is back normalish again, you can public can come visit, shop, look at, walk around, get a tour. Correct?
Yeah. Right now we're on a limited basis here in Pennsylvania. So what we've been doing is workshops, events. Bringing people in for a cocktail experience. Properly separated, limited gatherings, and we'll see what the coming year brings, just because, there's such a need for people to go out and have events, because we get this year of backlog that the business might evolve into a different direction. But, the whole idea that we can't lose is people being able to connect with the brand. And that comes back to touring the facility, because they get the experience, they get to understanding of, well, is your vodka 20 times distilled? Well, it doesn't really matter. That's just a marketing term. And giving people the facts so they can make more well-informed decisions without being pretentious is kind of the most important thing we want to do as a distillery.
So, and for you, Bill, if I took a trip to Serbia one day, could I go to that distillery and walk around and get a little tour, or is it
you could if you called me? But
There's no address.
you couldn't find it. Yeah. I think that we talk about that, and I think that we are going to get to a point where there is going to be a tasting room at this place, because it helps them. Visibility is everything. I think of everything like music, because that's really my experience, and that's it's one thing to hear a record, but sometimes you don't get a band until you see it live, and that's when you make the connection. That's when you kind of the brain kind of puts it all together, and you actually appreciate what they're doing sometimes.
Well, aside from the pandemic, pre-pandemic, we saw this huge uptick in distilleries all over the world who are creating the experience of visiting, right, and getting people in the door, right, with whether it's the Bourbon Trail in in Kentucky or whether it's Islay in Scotland or the
Right.
Highlands or wherever, wineries have been doing it for years. There's no reason that it can't continue once we're past all this. And I think it's good for folks to get their faces in front of folks like you guys, people making the stuff or marketing the stuff. And so they can talk to you and ask questions like whiskey festivals too.
And experience it with the people who make it, because that's part of the adventure, right? I mean,
Totally.
This is an adventure. It really is. And sometimes, you gotta connect in that mindset, to be there, to kind of feel it. I think I really believe that.
Yeah, I can't imagine 10,000 distilleries in Serbia making the same product.
Nah.
Well, they're not the same product, but
Well,
but,
they're right. Yeah, the
There's
same
a
name.
lot.
I think distilleries is probably a loose word too.
Right. Somebody's bathroom
I can,
or
I can send you
bathtub.
some pictures. You can go onto YouTube, or you can just do Distilleria. If you spell it Destillerija. Do that with Google Images, and you'll see what I'm talking
Oh
about.
my
See some
God.
cool stuff, huh?
Oh man,
You would send me
Oh,
some
man.
links, Bill.
it gets real. Yeah.
How many of
Nice.
these pictures are you in, Bill?
What's that?
How many of those pictures are you in? Yeah, that's funny.
So when you try spirits from other places that are similar to yours, what's your first thought about how someone else is making their product in relation to what you're trying to do? Like the ones that are kind of not unique, like Carrot and Beet. Are you looking for the problems in that spirit, and what you could do to make it better? I guess
Try
more
not
for
to.
Tim.
Try to taste it objectively, but I mean, you don't always do that. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It really,
It depends
you
on
have to
Sometimes
understand the style of the
Yeah.
distillery. Like for us, our style, and it's hard to really know as a general consumer, but our style is light-bodied, clean finish, aroma, flavor,
Right.
and balance. But the body is going to vary from still to still, from distillery to distillery. Look at Scotch, right? If you're drinking a Macallan, you love the big, rich, oily flavor that comes from their short neck still versus say like a Glenfiddich, which is going to be a little bit lighter in body, right? Because of their difference in still. For us, taste goes out the door because I think taste is very individual specific. It is really just understanding what faults are made, if you're trying to, and how balanced the spirit is between the aroma to the palate and the finish. Because if the aroma is great, the palate's off, the finish, it's rough, it's off. If the aroma is horrible, the palate's great. You want to have that harmonious, experience from nose to palate to finish, and then the persistence that comes through. If you're able to hit all those, then it's a great spirit. Taste, I might not like certain things, but that's on me. But if you can create a clean spirit, that's really the most important part, in my opinion.
It's a cliche, but balance is such a key, right? You
Cocktails, beer, everything.
Whatever. Yeah, especially in cocktails.
Did we lose Tim?
Tim is gone for a second, it looks like. Yep. I had a question about cocktails. So, Bill, you must drink this in cocktails as well, right?
You do, and you can. There are people who do it. I get scared encouraging people to do that because
Really?
I'm really focused on the purest part of it, which is drinking it with fatty meats, with the way it's done in Serbia. That's my experience with it. But yes, there are people. There's a guy in Long Beach who has at Alex's Bar. He's got a good cocktail. Yeah.
It's a great venue.
It is a great venue. Yeah, absolutely. There's some guys doing it, and there's some guys that are gonna be doing it. There's a guy who's a mixer named Dusan Zaric. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He got a cocktail that's I haven't tried yet. Actually, it's called the Last Goddess. Yamashiro's in LA has it. I trust him. I mean, he's amazing at what he does, but I'm completely terrified to encourage it unless I know like it's for real, because it's all, to me, it's really about being in its natural state and what it's intended to. It means everything.
Yep.
And it would be easy to get lost if you don't know what you're doing with it. And that's the last thing you want to do with this.
I will. I'll kill it.
Right. I mean, because if you just want
your
to,
cocktail.
if you're just looking for a spirit in a, let's say a fruit-based drink, you just use vodka. You're not going to get anything out of this.
Actually, that's a great point. And I mean, really, it's like part of the reason, I don't know, you guys are probably the same. I mean, Brandy's, one of the reasons you go there is because the fruit kind of has a vibe and an essence that, you want to capture in a way. And, why do you want to capture this thing? You go through so much trouble to get out of the way and let it be itself. Why do you want to just just water it down with something else again? I don't know.
That being said, go ahead, Ange.
I always feel like it has to stand on its own. If it doesn't stand on its own, that's really not.
That's it. Yeah.
Worth it. And then if it stands on its own, I just want to drink it on its own most of the time. So
I can make one cocktail, and it's an old fashioned. That's it. And
okay.
So
that's a good one to make.
My general rule is when I'm at visiting you guys when I was there back in Philly, is to get something from a distillery, whatever, pick something. And I brought that Beet liqueur home, spirit home, and I actually put a couple drops of it instead of using simple syrup. I use this in an old fashioned, and I don't remember if I used bourbon or not. I might have used rye, and so I think it's kind of fun to play with things and change flavors up and change kind of the traditional things into with different spirits. I do that a lot, bringing stuff from what's that place that Ange we went to. That tasting room we went to.
Oh, the one at Art and the Age?
Art and the Age. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You guys know
that
place, right? And I brought home a couple of their liqueurs, which what was those, Ange? We had some crazy stuff over there.
There was like a blueberry and
they do a lot of infusions and stuff like that over there.
Yeah, they do a lot of fun stuff.
They do it up in New Hampshire, right?
Yeah, they do it at Tamworth.
And I've used those things in small little bits in old fashions, and it really is. You're making a whole different drink, but it's really kind of fun.
Well, Mike and I just tried their aquavit, and that was really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was neat stuff.
The fun thing about creating some of these cocktail flavors is it's really not groundbreaking. It's at the end of the day, essentially food pairing. As we create cocktails, beets. Well, why don't we put some of our beet into apple cider? Because beets and apples kind of go well together. And that gives you kind of a good idea of experimentation.
Yeah, food pairing and balance is a big thing in it. I'm
very curious about your
balanced.
I want to try the beet stuff. I really want to try the beet stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure we can get some out soon.
I'm down with it. I can see that mixing because it also is really something that would take something and steer it somewhere in a really new direction.
It steers it in its own direction. It's very assertive.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe steering is too soft.
I'm just looking at the back of the bottle. I don't remember reading this. It says it takes
awesome.
7 pounds of beets to create one bottle.
Yeah,
roughly. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what's the yield on some of the other, on the carrot? How much carrots do you have to use to get a
13 pounds.
Yeah, the carrot's about 13 pounds. It's a little less sugars than the beets have. So
yeah.
And just like the pure Palinka tradition, and just like I'm sure what you guys do in Serbia, we don't boost it with sugar or anything to maximize our yields. It's what you get's what you get.
Yeah. We'll wind up with sometimes our carrot mashes are 3-4% ABV. So it's it takes a lot.
It's so demoralizing.
Interesting.
It is demoralizing. That's a lot of carrots. That's a lot of people.
That's got to be healthy somehow.
Yeah, sure. Tell yourself that, sure.
It has to be.
Yeah. Well, we're I think we have to get you guys reloaded on some of the other new products we've got out there. So
absolutely.
Make sure to get a little care pack out
on new stuff. So
when Ange told me about the vegetable stuff a couple years ago, that's just amazing. I mean, when you think vegetable, you think what? It's vodka, right? And that's
potatoes.
Potatoes, right? Which is
spicy grass.
Right?
Yeah, something that you're trying to distill the flavor out of.
Yeah, totally.
Not retain the flavor.
That's
right.
And whereas plums, you want to retain that flavor.
You want to accentuate it. Yeah, you want it to be big.
Yeah, you want it to be very big. And that's the interesting thing about Yebiga is that flavor is right there. It's not hidden at all. That's really neat. How is, Ange, you're drinking the apple one. Is that apple kind of just blow you away when you put it in your nose?
It's really good. They're all really subtle, though. The fruit's kind of
I'll join you with that apple
it's
there.
Sort of it's on the back end, You get the clean spirit, but then you get that little bit of fruit on the back, much like the BELA, the Yebiga. It was the same thing. For me, it was tequila up front, and then the plums kick in.
No.
I can see the similarity in that with the apple versus the plum Eau de Vies is it's the skins. It's the skins of the fruit that gives you those similar tannins. Like I mentioned before, those lees flavors and stuff that the skins, the tannins, the yeast, and all that carry through the fermentation, the distillation.
Are you guys using just commercial yeasts?
Yes,
we do. Yeah.
They're just so well tuned for processing the type of sugar in the fruit.
Depending on the raw ingredient, from wine yeast to we use some beer and whiskey yeast. We'll use there are certain yeasts that are geared towards like a high sugar content ferments, like for our rums and stuff like that. So yeah, they're all, we select them all, and they're all commercially available yeasts. It's nothing crazy.
Bill, is that distillery use a commercial yeast also?
No, just the wild yeast. Just
nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Like
it's a farm, and that's just how they
it's
always
a farm.
They kind of figured
That's
it
what
out.
it keeps coming down to.
leave the windows open.
100 years ago, they probably figured it out. I don't know.
It's like the mezcal world, right? That's everything's
It's very
just
similar. And
naturally.
similar to mezcal, also in that maybe 30 years ago, people didn't really appreciate it even there so much.
Totally.
And they grew to appreciate it later. And in Serbia, there's this kind of awakening that's happening now, where they're kind of evaluating it properly and appreciating it like it's a real spirit, where it's not just the thing in the barn that your grandfather knows how to make really well.
Right.
But so it is that kind of time, and mezcal is a good comparison.
Yeah, we're constantly blown away by the labeling on mezcals and all of the information you get, all the transparency. It's
sure.
It's
The farm, the agave type, the
guy's his daughter's middle name.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Totally. They get pretty deep on some of that.
Oh my God, it's crazy. Yeah, and this plot of land, and it's the what's the terrorization of spirits?
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot of.
This is the one that's aged, the aged one. Is this 18?
That's the 18 months. Yeah,
this is the 18 months, and this is purely Eau de Vies, right? Okay.
That's Eau de Vies. Exactly.
Wow.
It's really good, Bill. So tell us about the lady on the front.
So the lady, it's funny because when I had this idea to do it, I was thinking about, I wanted to be one of these punk rock obituaries. And I just was going through the internet, and I just saw her face in an article. There's this woman who was 98 years old and making rakia, and she just like the vibe. And I got a hold of her, and she had died.
So you didn't get a hold of her.
So I didn't get a hold of her, but I got a hold of her family. I got a hold of the family. And the ironic thing is I didn't really know her that well, but she kind of captured like the kind of, the real, the what's the word?
It's a very classic looking label.
Like classic. And everybody has a grandmother that's like this out there. And it's just kind of universal. And I got to know the family afterwards because their Baba was on the bottle, of a thing called "Fuck It," right? So I went over to their house and I stayed over at their house, and she turns out was an amazing person who was making rakia in the backyard. I went to her, saw her still, and
wow,
she was completely about all natural ingredients, nothing. And when you think that she was doing this in the 30s and 40s, it was a really heavy concept back then. So she was a really amazing person. So actually, the way it turns out, like, I'm happy to have her as a patron saint.
Sure.
What's her name?
Her name is Lubica.
Lubica.
Baba Lubica.
So there's
like a lover. I think that's what Lubica is.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Oh, there you go. That's nice. Oh my gosh, it's just a great label.
It is.
She looks like my grandmother.
I
think she looks like everyone's grandmother.
Better.
Yes.
Wow, I'm saying my grandmother passed away in like 1973, and she was like 80 or 90.
Yeah.
So she looks like an old Sicilian woman.
It's funny because here, like I was going around to the bars and I'm, trying to introduce this thing of this weird lady on the bottle, and a lot of people are really afraid of it. It's like, well, I've never heard of this stuff. why are you gonna make me drink this? You know, you came in off the street. I don't know who the hell you are. And I like the fact though, that they're a little bit afraid of it, and they see this.
Sure.
It's kind of like Black Sabbath, you know, when it first came out. You know, it's like it's like
totally.
this
is this?
Baba is gonna fuck you up. This grandmother
Yes.
is gonna take you apart. You know, and I like that about her. You know.
Well,
Because she's real. This is rebel culture too. You know, where these guys
That's
are coming
great.
from. You know, they had 500 years of occupation in Rakija. They made the whole time, and this is like it really is rebel culture. It is really part of their life. You know, so there's a lot of meaning in it.
I just find that the spirits in a country, the local spirit, whether it's Iraq or it's Rakia or whatever, Pisco in South America, where they came from and how it got to be what it is, and the importance to the culture there is fascinating. In bourbon in America, for instance, rum in the Caribbean, it's every country has a story to tell.
Cachaça in Brazil, yeah.
That horrible crap in China. What's it called?
Snake wine.
Bijou, is it Bijou?
Baijiu. Yeah, it's pretty. It's distilled sorghum. Which is nasty. Even the high end stuff is nasty. But they're even pushing. I think Diageo actually bought a distillery, and they're making a big push into the States. So it's great. I love seeing all these things on shelves here. It's amazing. I was telling Ange I wanted to send the guys some. This one chain here has, I think our owner's Armenian, and there is product. It's a regular grocery store, but there's product from all over the world, and their liquor section is just insane. It's crazy. And they must have had 4 or 5 spirits, categories from places I've never even heard of, right? Romanian wine, and then they've got Slivovic's from other countries, and of course your Croatian stuff, different ABVs. It's just, I want to get some of that stuff and just do a big tasting one night of all the different Plum brandies and see how they all compare from different countries.
You know where we live.
It's a comic book store for adults, you know.
It is.
Right?
It's called John's. Bill, there may be one down in San Diego. It's called John's Marketplace. JONS. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know that. Oh,
Yeah,
wow. I'm going to write this down.
They're here in LA, but they're a chain, so there's quite a few of them.
And they have great shit from all over the place, huh?
Oh my God, I get. The food stuff is just insane. Yeah,
Bill, I think you have your LA sales rep sitting right in
No,
front of you.
I get a day job.
Go to John's Market.
John's Market. Yeah.
That's your next name drop, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Ding, ding. Hey, come on, Ange, you're not fast enough.
Hey, I was in full screen. I can't see anybody. I'm on a little laptop. I got to do what I got to do here.
What's up next for you guys, Tim and Marat? What do you guys past? If you can think 6 months to a year beyond where we are in the world today, where are you guys looking to be? What things you got coming out without giving away too much?
Honestly, like Marat mentioned earlier, we have some big moves coming in midsummer or so. Looking at some national, regional pushes, which you'll all find out about at that point. But I don't think I can handle another skew right now.
You're skewed out, huh? You're so skewed. Skew you.
No, we got a lab where we've been working on all kinds of fun stuff, different liqueurs, cordials, all sorts of fun things. Whether we're gonna retail them in a local market or just create them for our RTDs, canned cocktails, things like that. We're always working on a lot of stuff. Whether or not it all comes to fruition, whether or not it all comes on the market, who's to say? But we're always busy.
So, Aaron, I think what Tim is trying to say is I'm surrounded by artists, just always creating stuff. That's really what's happening.
It's not bad.
It is a good thing. And, the nice thing is as we expand, we're going to have retail storefronts that we can push, different products, our Amaros, absinthe that we make. Absinthe, I think every person only owns like one bottle of absinthe in their life. But,
I do one a month. One a month.
One a month. There you go.
Oh, wow.
But just different things that people can try, knowing that they probably won't have national, global distribution, but at least it introduces people to the brand and what we're able to do, while at the same time, building on our bread and butter, which are your popular categories like vodka, gin, whiskey, that hook people in, and they're like, you know what, I want to experiment. I want to try something that's a little bit bitter. I want to try something that's a little bit different. I want to try something that has a story to it. Because at the end of the day, it always just comes down to educating consumers so they can make the right decisions of, really what their palates tell them versus what a marketing commercial tells them they're supposed to taste and think. That's kind of what we want to strive to.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we have a couple markets that we can work into. We have a few restaurants who we've extended our satellite locations into. Our satellite licenses into. So, it's a really good restaurant who's running our bar program. And that's a great outlet for us to put a lot of these, things that we want to, workshop, and things that they want to do. They give us ideas. Like, can you make this? Because we're interested in doing this cocktail, or, we want this spirit. And it gives us,
Bubblegum brandy, sex on the beach cocktail. Right, everyone says.
No.
With lactose and oats.
Hazy. It's
Hazy.
No.
I was going to ask you guys when we were talking about the bourbon. Big deal these days is bars buying their own barrels.
Yeah.
Right. Have you guys done any of that kind of stuff too? Or
not yet. No.
Not in a volume yet.
No.
We're
not there.
We just don't have a product
we don't have
that we
enough
feel
barrels
is
for
ready to go
ourselves
out.
yet.
Yeah. But that may be something for the future.
When Mike and I were there, what did we try to? Was it a single malt you made? Is that what we said?
Yeah, we had. Yeah, you guys tried the single malt, maybe the rye, a few of the brandies.
Right.
But yeah, the single malt was the very first product we had put away.
That's what we had the most of as far as our barrel stocks go.
Yeah.
And now that's still resting, if you will.
Still resting. We have a 600-liter sherry or cognac butt filled with doing a secondary resting of our single malt right now.
Okay.
Yeah, the tough part is it's just with whiskey, it's just finding the right time because you taste it at one point in the year, it's spicy. Another point, it's meaty. Then it's fantastic. And you're like, cool, we got it.
When is it sucked into the wood versus being pushed out of the wood?
Especially with your weather, you got cold, really cold, and then really hot, and things change depending on the time of the year you taste it. Yeah, sure.
The downside for us, like most craft distillers, is we're going to be consistently inconsistent with our first batches, and for us, just because you essentially get one shot at whiskey to win a consumer over, we want to be right with it, and then just continue to build and grow on that with the the right barrel selection, the right blend selection.
We want to maintain our good reputation.
Well, we're waiting.
Us
too. Here, believe me, I'm waiting too.
We have plenty of other fun stuff in the meantime.
Oh, I know. Yeah. We're all for the ride. We're along for the ride completely.
All right, Bill, your turn. So, post-pandemic, somewhere down the road, when the world's kind of a different place again, better place, hopefully. Where do you see you guys?
Well, I mean, there are Balkan people all over the country, like places like Texas, Ohio,
San Pedro,
Washington.
California.
Yeah. The thing is, the first reason I did this was kind of for them because I mean, their pain is real. Like, I just wanted Rakija when I was home, but I mean, this is something I'm bringing from home that really you couldn't get, and I kind of want to make that connection. So there's probably about 12 key places in the country I really want to be able to get it to and kind of make that connection first. And with my music connections, I could introduce hopefully something that a lot of people weren't familiar with, and that's great too. But the most important thing though is just get to the core, who really going to appreciate it right off the bat.
I think you're the first and maybe only celebrity Rakija brand.
Definitely.
You didn't want to do tequila?
I would
Corner
say
that market, man.
I think that's a pretty safe bet.
Tequila's out of hand right now.
Yeah.
Well, it's you and Soderbergh. Soderbergh's got that stuff from South America.
Yeah, he does. That's true.
And I haven't seen it yet. So, I mean, two funky products. Do new funky products come to the States.
But you know what I think is interesting when you do have these celebrity brands, is there's a connection from the person to the spirit, and it's just like, oh, I want to make a gin, and I'm Ryan Reynolds. But Bill, you actually have a connection to this. You have a connection to the country.
He
and you have a connection
bought a
to the
gin.
spirit.
He didn't make a gin.
I actually, this is a strange thing, but to me, this is like making music. I feel the same satisfaction connecting as when somebody buys my record. I really do feel like that. I don't see this as like a diversification, investment, because this is Brandy and this is Rakija, and who the fuck knows? But I do know it's something real, and I think that we live in a world here that's mass marketed and mass produced, and if I can try to introduce something that kind of is different in a way that kind of encourages other creativity and makes the quality of life better, I think it's a great thing to be part of. I don't mind doing that with my time. That's
beautiful. That's great. I think that's the DIY part of making spirits, I think, right?
I think so. I mean, that's my band was a really weird band. We got really lucky. Some people at Warner Brothers got behind us. MTV played our video, but nobody gave a shit about us for years. And when I look back at it now, it was like, wow, the odds were really stacked against me. But when I was doing it, I didn't feel that way because I liked what I was doing. So I kind of look at it the same way. It's like, whatever this goes, I kind of find something that I think I've kind of connected with, and I'm on it.
It's awesome. That's great.
That's great. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, guys, this was a great. I don't want to keep you guys all night. It's late on the East Coast a little bit. This was a little fun little visit, and it's fun visit and fun spirits. I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is the fun spirits. That it's not run of the mill. It's not the same thing everybody else. Like you said, it's not the same tequila. You guys are coming out and you're coming out swinging with really interesting products.
Yep. I'm gonna experiment with all of them. I'm gonna play with all of them and see what we can do with them too. I want to get you guys contacts before at the end of this too, because especially the beet stuff, man. I'm down. I want to try it.
You got to try the carrot with it too.
Awesome.
The carrot's really. I had some of that tonight. The carrots. It's something totally different.
Yeah,
and it's such a clean spirit.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think I still have some pear hanging out at the distillery too. I mean, we can send you a little pear package.
What pears are you using? Williams pears?
So we did two different ones.
Same thing.
Yeah. Bartlett Williams, and we did Anjou.
Okay, I don't know those, huh? Cool. I know in Serbia, Williams pears they use a lot in near Novi Sad. They're Hungary.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It comes up great.
I was going to ask: is the pear versus plum process similar? Sugar content issues?
Processing's different. You're dealing with different pits, different. With a plum, you have an actual pit in it. Pears are a little more like an apple.
Yep.
They're a lot mushier when they're really ripe, so you can kind of just pull that pit. Yeah, you can just kind of mush that pit right out and not deal with the seeds. But but I mean, again, you still get if you're not juicing them, if you're fermenting the whole fruit, you're still getting those complex tannic notes from the skins and everything.
I have one question for both of you guys. I can only imagine what smell is really important for me for spirits. Whether I'm going to take these glasses tonight and I'm going to leave them out and not wash them, and then tomorrow morning I'm going to smell them to see what I get out of them.
Because you're lazy.
I'm weird and I'm lazy.
So,
but the greatest smell you can have is walking into a distillery. Those smells of everything. Sometimes. So tell me about the smells, kind of quickly here, of when you walk into the distillery in the morning. Ooh, and Bill, I'm sure you've been to the distillery in the morning, right?
I have actually. Yeah.
Go ahead, Bill.
Is it a good smell? Or is it
more?
Is it?
I didn't really think about it when I did
really?
it. I mean, no, but then the times I've walked in the distillery, I was sleeping in the cabin next door, and it was usually a pretty late night. So I kind of making my way to the coffee.
That's funny.
Nah, we process a lot of different ingredients. When we're mashing bourbon, our whole plant smells like cooked polenta. It's great.
That's great. I can smell that.
That's cool.
That's really good. When we're distilling, when we're stripping some beer that went south from a nearby brewery, not so good.
Smells like farts and sauerkraut foot.
Oh, that's pleasant.
And let's throw some hops in there, like farts, sauerkraut, and grapefruit.
And shame.
And shame, lots of shame.
And lots of shame.
Boy, that's a tour day. That's a nice day.
And the shame never goes away. It doesn't wash out real easily, does it?
No, it seeps into the wall.
But Aaron, what you were
That
saying
stays with you.
earlier about leaving the glass out, it's the dry test, and that's kind of important. And we were doing the same thing with the brandy. If you can still smell the clean fruit, that's a sign of a good aromatic brandy, and that's what you have here.
I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah, leave it out for 10 minutes, 15 minutes if it still has that nice aroma.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
alcohol goes away, and you just get the essence of it, right?
that's something that we do during the distillation process when we're trying to determine our cuts. I'll get some on my hand and I'll wipe it on my other hand and allow it to evaporate. And I smell it as it evaporates, and you can determine the notes of the different compounds as they collectively evaporate off your hand. So you kind of get a feel of. What's that?
That's how you wash your hands, basically. Without
that is, yeah. That's the only time I wash my hands.
Oh, don't say that now.
It would be damned.
Oh god, guys, this was really great. This has been really
That was
fun.
good.
We want to thank Tim Mokes and Marat Mamedov. Is that how you say your name, Marat? Last name?
Yeah, absolutely.
From Boardroom Spirits in outside of Philly, and Bill Gould from Yebiga. Is it Yebiga Spirits? Is that
Yebiga?
Yebiga, and making his amazing plum brandy Rakija. Guys, thank you so much for coming on to Booze Dancing TV.
Hang out for a
Thanks
little
for
bit
having
longer.
us.
Yeah, don't go just yet. We'll put
Yeah,
you
don't go away.
Cool.
All right.
All right, we're gonna end this real quick. Hang on one second.
Absolutely.
And one more. Hold on. One more. All right, boys.
Wow, that was fun.
Yeah,
That's fun.
a lot.
Boy,
Fun and boozy.
Fun and
Yeah.
bouzy and really interesting because you've got these things that we don't really touch too much, right? We're so much into scotches and whiskey, bourbons and ryes and rums, and you guys are all into beer, and boom, we're all over the place here.
Well, that's been the beauty of the blog. It's taken us places we never thought we'd go.
Totally, yeah.
And I'm not going to say they've all been great, but for the most part, it's all good fun.
No,
When they give us an offer, we just say yes. Sure, we'll try that.
Why not?
Sure.
Because then
You
it
know
leads to something like this.
it does.
Exactly.
But you know what's also, it's nice to say yes to things and people that are nice and have a really great spirit inside them and the product that they make. And
Exactly.
boy, I think you guys have an access to that stuff in you guys at Boardroom. I'd really like to try some other things, but the beet is just great, and the Yebiga is awesome from Bill Gould. It was really eye-opening. I learned a little bit, learned a lot actually about
That's good. That's good.
processing different kinds of fruits that we're used to the grain stuff, and this was really neat.
It's all agricultural products. I mean, it all started from, I got this stuff, it's going to go bad. What am I going to do with it?
Yeah, totally.
Make it into something I can drink
Nothing
later.
goes to waste.
Yeah,
Like a haggis. Nothing goes to waste.
nothing goes to waste, and that's the way it
Not
should
like
be,
haggis.
And if you could make something good out of it.
No one's distilling haggis, right?
Absolutely.
No, but you could have it with something that was distilled.
That's true.
That's
well,
cool.
in most a lot of places that you'll have haggis, they'll actually for the extra little buck or two, they'll pour whiskey right on top.
Excellent.
And
All right, boys.
bit of catch.
Shall
Roll
we
some end
roll
credits.
All right,
the end credits? All right.
roll the credits.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Cheers.